So
3,567 in, 0 out. The Daily Mail calls it a fiasco, Kevin.
It hasn't started yet, has it? And the scheme.
Ministers
I mean, the Daily
claimed,
Mail backed Rwanda and nobody went after about 4 years.
All right.
Sorry.
I think that's a record amount of time in which you've mentioned Rwanda.
Is it? That's pretty good.
Ministers claimed when the agreement was announced in July, it would take effect within weeks. It hasn't taken effect. There's been no result.
We're still within weeks, though, aren't we? I mean, we are. Look.
Technically, we could be within weeks by the end of Parliament.
If there's 100 people supposedly being detained to go, and it's about to start, it'll start. But within weeks, you know, is a somewhat elastic phrase. We all use it, or within months, within years. It doesn't mean within, like, if you say 2 weeks, you mean a fortnight. But within weeks does not...
This is painful. This is
painful.
painful.
It hasn't started yet. It hasn't.
This is painful.
We're suddenly losing the will to live on this one.
This is painful.
It's Kevin, the Mail just
shambles.
again.
It's a shambles.
It's just making something.
Look,
Is the France deal a shambles?
I always thought calling it one in, one out was hostage to fortune. It was a ridiculous title because, as we've seen, 3,600 have arrived, none are out so far. And the 100 who've been detained, we don't know yet if they're going to be deported because there'll be human rights lawyers crawling all over them.
Well, apparently the Home Secretary wouldn't tell MPs how many people would be in the first tranche.
No.
So we don't even know how many people are awaiting deportation. She's also, of course, cracked down on this family reunion scheme, something which the Home Secretary herself, when she was not Home Secretary, had concerns about. Now, Kevin, just tell us, what is this family reunion scheme and why do you think the Labour Home Secretary has said that it has to be suspended?
It's because the politics has changed. I think that's why she's done it. Now, if you come to the UK as an asylum seeker, you're given refugee status and you're allowed to stay here. You are allowed to bring in your immediate members of your family to follow you. If you marry, or if you're a migrant and you want to bring in people, you have to show you can support them financially. Just as if you wanted to bring in a Thai bride, a young Thai bride, if you got one, you would have to show.
I would say
it's
never going to happen.
You never know. Never rule anything out. Never rule anything else. You would have to show you have to support them financially. I think it's about £28,000-30,000, is it? You have
29,000.
Yeah. I actually knew the figure. You've got to show you can support them. So that's what they're doing with people who are seeking refugee status. It's to reduce the numbers. That's what it is. I think.
But also the numbers have gone out of control. So I think a couple of years ago it was tiny numbers, and suddenly the gangs are.
It's gone from 5,000 to 20,000.
So they are selling this. If we get you over on the boat, you can bring your family in in a matter of weeks.
Yes. So you don't. You pay your £5,000 to come in the boat, and you often see it's men, predominantly men in the boats, although there are women and children too, because some of them have drowned trying to get here. So the men come first, and then they bring in their families. Now, I think there's a humane reason why we should allow them to bring in their families, but I understand the political pressure on the
political pressure
Home Secretary and the
is called Nigel Farage. That's what the political pressure is. That's why the Home Secretary's changed her position. That's why the government is now trying to ramp up the rhetoric, because of Farage's massive statement last week that they would deport 600,000 migrants in one parliament.
Do you think...
Which is a made-up figure.
It's a temporary ban. Do you think that the Home Secretary might change the time frame? Because it seemed that yesterday the message was, it used to be that people would be granted asylum, accepted as refugees, and then they'd probably spend quite a long time finding a job, finding accommodation, getting themselves settled, and then saying to their family, right, I'm ready for you to come over. It might take, I don't know, a year or 18 months. It seemed to be yesterday that the message was they're coming over and immediately their families are coming, and therefore local councils are finding whole family units are homeless, which is putting extra pressure on local services and local budgets. So it seems quite sensible, actually, that you come, you're granted asylum, you're given some time to get yourself settled and put your roots down, and then you can support a family.
You get a job and you get somewhere to live and you start paying your way. Yes, I can see all that, although if you've got somebody living in a camp in Calais in really squalid conditions, then you'd have to be lacking compassion not to be concerned about their fate and what they will be condemned to as a result. And of course, at the moment, we have a case, if you come and you claim asylum, until you're granted it, you can't work. And you get, if you're put up in a hotel or a hostel or whatever, if you get meals, you get £10 a week cash to buy clothes, toothpaste, whatever. If you don't get meals and you're living somewhere, you get 50, I think it's 49 quid a week. It's been created, all these terrible, terrible myths where Ryland Clark regurgitated, spouted most of them about free iPads and everything.
Hang on. Ryland pointed out that, and we're talking about Ryland, who was presenting on This Morning last week, who pointed out that this country's built on immigration, that he was grateful to all of the migrants who've come to the NHS for helping support his mum, that he was actually concerned, though, that, you know, we've got a sort of welcome to the UK and we don't know who all of these people are. And I have to say, Kevin, it is the duty of government, as the government itself would acknowledge, that we control borders and we do not just welcome everybody if we don't know who they are. And I think Ryland's message struck a chord with a lot of people who said, we're also concerned. He was concerned about illegal routes. He did not want it to be an anti-migration message.
He also, Susanna, regurgitated a load of myths and lies. And let's not ignore that, because...
What were the myths and lies?
You get the free iPads and all, like an El Dorado welcome. It's gone mainstream. Myths and lies have gone mainstream, and we've got to challenge them. We've got to push back on them.
But what people are concerned about is that we give a lot of support to people who are here illegally that is not given to other people.
Well, other people do get support. You get benefits if you're unemployed. Look, you get council and social housing, and yes, there's 1.3 million people on social waiting lists for accommodation. They're not created by migrants.
But pointing out...
That figure's been consistent for a long time.
But Ryland also pointed out that we have a massive homelessness problem. The government itself acknowledges there's not enough housing. So I just think to just say that what Ryland said was outrageous, regurgitating propaganda was lies...
I pointed out where he did.
He spoke up for a very, very, very decent, silent majority who are deeply concerned about the numbers coming in, and we don't know where these young men are from. We don't know what motives are in their heart either. And it's not racist to be concerned about that. He wasn't racist in saying
and this is another myth that needs challenging, that somehow they're disproportionately likely to be sex offenders and rapists.
No, but Ryland didn't say that.
No, he didn't.
You didn't say that.
He did it. We're not...
But how do we know? And if people come illegally and we're not processing them quickly and we're not able to deport them...
How do you know
how do we know who they are?
Somebody who can trace their roots back to William the Conqueror's time in 1066 moves next door to you. You don't really know who they are. You don't know who the parents are of kids in schools. Look, I mean, we can create...
Those people have documentation.
Susanna, we can create an atmosphere where you see strangers as your enemy, or you can see strangers as possibly your neighbour and be OK. And what's happening at the moment is we've gone back all the way to the worst aspects of the 1970s, where racism is becoming mainstream and myths and lies are being peddled.
I understand that,
but
I think you're also... The tone that you're using as well is quite...
He's saying we're racist.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of racism.
Helpful.
He's saying people like me who dare to say there's a great concern that we're racist, and it's shocking to call people racist for having decent people being very concerned about the impacts on their communities, and they don't know where these young men are from. That's not racist to say that.
You know the tone of the whole debate has gone incredibly toxic.
So shouldn't we just keep it calm then and not start pointing fingers at individuals who are simply trying to express a view?
Hang on. You're giving him a clean bill of health when he was fact-checked and showed to be absolutely wrong on a whole load of points. Now, this is it.
But you've said one point, which is iPads. You don't believe that that illegal immigrants are given free iPads.
No, he gave it this idea that it was all El Dorado. And it's not El Dorado when you come across.
I think that what he was trying to reflect... we can keep having this conversation. I think what he was trying to reflect.
I'm happy to keep having a conversation. Correct it.
Yeah, but it was a view that a lot of people have, that there are pull factors, and frankly, the government agrees.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why did the Home Secretary introduce a measure yesterday about refugee families?
The pull factor is people want to come here and start a new life.
And the Mayor of Calais, has said that Britain has to deal with the pull factors. French politicians are saying the same thing. We are, and Maguire hates the expression, seen as a soft touch. And that's why they're coming here.
As people come here to work and have a new life.
Soft touch.
And often they come here because we went there.
OK, so...
I think we have to distinguish between people's legitimate concerns and worries about the cost of asylum seekers, the uncertainty it creates in communities.
Absolutely.
And also the fact that our borders don't seem to be able to be managed from those individuals, and we know who they are, who are using this to go back to an agenda which they've been on. I fought in the constituency I was in against the British National Party, and that kind of white-based racism is very dangerous and insidious, and you have to distinguish yourself from that if you're going to make the arguments which express people's legitimate concerns about not being able to control our borders. And if you allied those things, that's when it becomes dangerous, and as Kevin says, that's when it becomes racist.
Polling showed, unless it's changed dramatically over the last few months, about 1 in 10 people in Britain are out-and-out racists who want everybody of different colours and backgrounds kicked out of the country. Other people have lots of concerns, and those concerns are across a spectrum. If you look at the people and you listen to the people who were outside the Bell Inn in Epping, there were some people with genuine concerns who were good people. And then you had others going along who were just deliberately pouring petrol on the fire to stoke up resentments and exploit those concerns.
And if you look at Elon Musk's tweets of the last few days, you can see a lot of petrol being poured and a lot of fire.
Well, of course, and it's where I think the tone and the facts in the debate are very important.
I also think people need to be able to express an opinion about it.
And if they're wrong, it should be pointed out.
But without being told that they're regurgitating propaganda and lies. And
you was fact-checked and fact-checked.
OK. Should we talk about the budget? Because that's coming up.
Happy moment.
Keir Starmer's made some big changes in number 10.
Now,
yesterday.
Tell us about these. He has brought in, actually, he's poached a regular on this programme, Darren Jones, who I think was the Chancellor's deputy. He's quite an effective communicator, Darren Jones. And he's gone from the Treasury over to number 10.
A role that's never existed before. He's become the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Although there have been versions of this role before. If you think about David Hunt did it for John Major as a cabinet minister in Downing Street. Peter Mandelson was brought back by Gordon Brown to play this kind of role. In some ways, George Osborne played this role for David Cameron in daily meetings. There have been big political figures.
Hasn't the Prime Minister got a financial economics expert in the form of the Chancellor?
Who has been completely defenestrated by this reshuffle yesterday. She has been sidelined and marginalised because the Prime Minister has looked back at the last year. The reshuffle itself is an admission that the last year has, put it mildly, been a wasted year, a disaster. And he looks back at the big setbacks, the winter fuel allowance, fiasco.
U-turn,
cutting disability benefits by 5 billion, had to be dropped because of Labour rebellion. Other issues, he's putting it all in the backyard of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reid. He, as Prime Minister, signed all this off. Yeah. So what he's done, he's bringing Darren Jones in from the Treasury. He's bringing a very senior civil servant from the Treasury to be his most senior civil servant in number 10, and he's bringing in his own economic advisor, a former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England. So effectively, he's now going to run the budget, not Rachel.
It is slightly odd, though, isn't it, that for the last year, Keir Starmer didn't have a senior economic advisor. There wasn't a senior Treasury person in his private office. He didn't feel connected with delivery through his ministers. So if you look at the front page of The Telegraph, you see Rachel Reeves putting a brave face on these changes. I think the truth is Keir Starmer's number 10 was woefully underpowered, and they're sorting that out. But, of course, it's a year too late. I mean, phase one didn't go well for the Starmer number 10.
Well, catastrophic. Look at the polls. One poll last week putting Reform 15 points ahead.
I do remember when you were in frontline politics, Ed. Tony Blair had economic advisors in number 10, and Gordon Brown just ignored them.
Somebody called
completely
Scott.
We did not. I met him for 50 minutes a week and chatted through issues with him.
And then ignored him. And then ignored him.
What are you talking about?
He's
a very nice man.
And let's think...
very interesting views.
And when Prime Ministers fall out with Chancellors, it's the beginning of the end. Think back to Mrs Thatcher. She brought in a man called Alan Walters to advise her, and within a year, the Chancellor she once called unassailable, Nigel Lawson, quit. And
OK, can I ask, what does this mean for the price of fish? Kevin? Because, actually, people watching won't know who any of these individuals are.
In truth, probably nothing.
I don't agree. I think it looks like they're going to put taxes up in the budget.
No, but I don't think that's changed.
They were going to anyway.
I don't think that's changed, though. And that's why I said no impact. Yeah, I think some taxes will go up. It's which taxes will go up.
I think it's more likely we're going to see wealth taxes, mansion taxes, those sorts of taxes.
Good idea.
What about...
higher earners and richer people?
There was even talk that there could be capital gains tax imposed when you flog your property. That would be astonishing.
No, but that would be a mega change over a long period. It would probably be a smart move instead of paying stamp duty, so you only pay tax if you have big profits on your house sale. But I don't think they're going to do that. But the Chancellor isn't completely defenestrated. I think she is humiliated on this. But she got the politics really wrong on winter fuel.
Well, where was the Prime Minister, Kevin? He signed it off.
The Prime Minister was the First Lord of the Treasury. He
Yeah.
delegated too much to her. I think the problem here is Starmer himself. And he has proved a terrible manager. And I thought because he'd been Director of Public Prosecutions and he'd run a big department, he would know how to run a government. And he's keep changing his chief of staffs, his directors of comms, moving other people around. Can he get a grip? Can he finally get a grip? There must be a question mark.
OK.
But doesn't a big budget question come back to this, which is they've got a big hole in their public finances, even though they said they'd fill it last year with the national insurance rise. They've still got a big hole. Growth has not delivered this year. The public finances are under pressure. Very hard to have big cuts in public spending. They set out their plans for public spending in the summer, and actually when it came to trying to cut the welfare bill, they got pushed back and they couldn't manage to do that. But they made this commitment to have no rise in VAT, no rise in income tax, no rise in national insurance, no rise in taxes most people pay. And either they have to say, look, we got that wrong, and they're going to have a straightforward tax rise for everybody, or, as Susanna said, they have to fiddle around trying to find, let's be honest, billions of pounds from things like property tax or capital gains taxes or wealth taxes, which is very, very hard to do without doing what look very big and draconian things. And that's their choice.
Or
they either stick with plan A...
Or do they borrow even more when the cost of borrowing is at an all-time high?
Look, I was told off after the programme yesterday for talking about the bond market and kind of getting all technical economics. The global bond market is not going to let Britain borrow billions of pounds more. That isn't a way out. So you either raise taxes or you cut spending. That's the choice.
Three quarters of what the Chancellor is borrowing goes to pay the interest on past debts. Yeah. And those interest rates have gone up. No, she's in a difficult position. She got a very, very poor inheritance, and then she's played the hand that she devised badly on those two issues of winter fuel and welfare cuts. I see she wanted to cut spending and save money, but she did it in the wrong place for the wrong...
And you'd imagine the Prime Minister might have had some influence. I mean, a huge majority. He didn't crack the whip over his backbench
was he asleep at the wheel?
But you've got to remember, though, the NHS is recovering, and that national insurance rise raised the money that is going into...
I think he thought he should let the Chancellor get on with it, that he could worry about other things, and the Treasury should get on with it. And he's now realised, which actually we all know, unless the Prime Minister and the Chancellor are working closely together on all the detail, if you devolve it to the Treasury, it doesn't always work.
I'm glad you mentioned the word inheritance, Kevin, because in one of my criticised segues, and I think Ed will speak up about this...
I like your segues.
I'm going to talk about Mark Wogan. and inheritance tax that he has to pay on the late, great Sir Terry Wogan's estate. Now, I don't know whether you feel sorry for Mark Wogan or not.
I do feel sorry for him because, look, he's set to inherit £1 million.
No, so...
And, I mean, you know, it's
tax-free, £1 million tax-free, and then there's 40p.
Shall I just explain the story? So, the late, great Sir Terry Wogan died, and then his widow subsequently died. And they've left their children a £3.75 million home.
Overlooking Windsor Castle.
And Mark, his son, says they have not had a single viewing. They can't sell it, but the inheritance...
At £3.75 million, which is the asking price, maybe the price is too high.
Yeah.
But the inheritance tax bill has already come in because it comes in after 6 months.
Yeah.
And they have to pay interest on the inheritance tax that they owe.
Which is why he hasn't inherited the money yet because they haven't sold the house.
Hasn't inherited the money.
Yeah, well, reduce the price of the house. Look, you know...
It's called... I don't want to kind of lecture you on this, Andrew, but it's called the market economy.
I get that.
And by the way, he doesn't get
price.
£1 million... the £1 million tax-free is not... It's 650,000.
How is that a £3.75 million house? It's a £3.75 million house because they, in the estate agent, put it on the market for that. Well, if no one's buying it, it's not a £3.75 million house. Why don't you try a £3.5 million or a £3.25 million or a £3 million house?
It would have the benefit of reducing the inheritance tax.
I get that about the price, but what I do think, it is outrageous, HMRC taking money off people which they haven't already got.
And then charging them interest on it.
The reason you have to have interest coming in after 6 months is nobody would ever bother settling an estate. You'd put it off in perpetuity. So you never have to pay your inheritance tax.
What do we make of inheritance tax in principle? Because 40% inheritance tax, so everything that Sir Terry Wogan earned and put into his estate...
Which he paid tax on.
Which he paid income tax
Large
on.
amounts of
Terry
tax.
Wogan's dead.
Yes.
Crowds have no pockets.
OK.
You can't take it with you.
But, Kevin, do you not earn money in order to support your family?
Yeah.
Do you not sort of feel a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that the government will take almost half of that from you?
Everybody all the time.
Only 1 in every 20 estates pay inheritance tax.
When you die, will your children have to pay inheritance tax?
Well, it depends what state I die in and whether I've spent my pension pot, actually. But no, they wouldn't at them. Probably, unless there's some pension left.
The vast majority of people will not pay it.
19 out of every 20 estates. So, you know, I'm trying to hold back the tears on this multi-millionaire getting something for nothing. It's a form of welfare.
He's not getting
Inheritance
something
is
for
a form
nothing.
of welfare.
He's inheriting what his great-father built up for his children.
You don't earn it to yourself.
It's a pernicious tax, and while not many people pay it, it's people have
tax.
Aspirations, and it's another kick in your aspirations.
So would you say that the right thing to do is to abolish it?
No.
Because the interesting thing is the Conservatives... I remember George Osborne, David Cameron
Labour
said,
we'll
abolish inheritance tax.
They're going to raise the threshold to $1 million.
But the threshold is $1 million.
But
this house is worth 3.75.
Hang on. The threshold is not $1 million.
It is.
The threshold is 325,000.
It's $1 million for another 175,000 if you have a house. Yeah.
If the house is left directly to the children in the will,
you pay nothing if it goes to a husband or wife, civil partner.
If the people who died were married.
And it'll be exactly what the
basic threshold is 325,000.
And if one of the couple dies early, there's no inheritance tax to the other half, and you pass on the allowance. Look, to get it, if you've got a property...
If they're married.
19 out of 20. Look, people watching this will be thinking we've gone bonkers, because 19 out of 20 estates will not be paying. So I'm going to have to get out the smelling salts and revive myself as I feel deeply sorry.
Mark Wogan is going to be in the green room with you. Because he's going to be on the programme just
and if he's
before
watching,
why don't we get these two guys in? We can sit back and let them have it out. Although 1
in 20
that was a very feisty news
I'm going to have a word
$1 million tax-free, then you pay 40p on every one. You're lucky if you pay inheritance tax. You're lucky if you inherit a lot.
Get a new estate agent if you ask me.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's
thanks very much indeed. Because we had a proper set too there, Kevin.